My next patron question is from Benjamin, who wants to know if I think they'll remake The Blind Side now that Michael Oher set the record straight on his upbringing and relationship with the Tuohys. For those of you not familiar with this story, Michael Oher is an American football player whose period with the Tuohy family was turned into the film The Blind Side. That movie was a big hit and led to Sandra Bullock winning an Oscar for playing Leanne Tuohy. As I mentioned in my video about Alcon Entertainment, the production company that made the film, Michael Oher would later file a lawsuit saying that while the family was paid handsomely for the film rights to the story, he received nothing. As part of his lawsuit, he said while the Tuohys claimed to have adopted Oher, they instead placed him in conservatorship, which granted them the rights to use his name and that allowed them to sell the rights to get this movie made. The Tuohys made a lot of money off speaking engagements about him too. Oher would also express his displeasure at how he was depicted in the film, especially portraying him as illiterate. The judge ended the conservatorship, and the Tuohys were ordered to no longer refer to Oher as adopted in any materials or speaking engagements. With this recent development, would a producer decide to make a more accurate depiction of Michael Oher's life on screen? Oher did write his autobiography in 2011, and I could see someone trying to get the rights to that book to make something closer to reality. However, maybe Oher would rather not have his life depicted on screen again. It depends on how much he wants to set the record straight in a movie to counteract how The Blind Side told his story. He currently runs an organization that helps young people get the education and mentorship they deserve and appears to be focusing his efforts on that. But I don't want to speak for him, and it's really up to him and whether he trusts a filmmaker or studio to tell a story correctly. There was a documentary special produced for CNN that went into the ordeal, although Oher apparently had no involvement with that. So it's possible he would rather people talk about his sports career and the foundation he created rather than the Tuohys. Again, I don't want to speak for him. Like I mentioned, Michael Oher was not fond of the way he was depicted in The Blind Side, and his criticisms are not just recent, as he voiced this displeasure not long after the film's release, taking issue with being portrayed as someone who needed help to read and constantly needing the Tuohys by his side. It makes one wonder why the filmmakers did not involve him more in the production of the movie to make sure he was portrayed in a way that more accurately reflected him. But that can be an issue with biopics. I've long been bothered by the way Freddie Mercury was depicted in Bohemian Rhapsody compared to his bandmates, especially since he's not even here to have his say. And there was the recent Michael Jackson biopic, which went in the complete other direction by depicting Jackson as this angelic figure. People might assume this to mean I think the movie should have been about the allegations, when what I really mean is the film gave him barely any flaws at all. You need to strike that balance when depicting someone's life, unless it's about a monster like Hitler or Pol Pot. But with The Blind Side, you had a case of someone having barely any control over how his name and image was used while he's still here. It shows the damage that can come with a conservatorship, especially when it's someone famous. The risk is there that whoever controls you can just sell your life rights. It's a relief that when Britney Spears was on the conservatorship, her father did not sell the biopic rights to a studio. It could have resulted in a character assassination that propped him up and depicted her in a horrible, undeserving light. Although there was an unauthorized biopic produced for the Lifetime Network, which Spears and her representatives publicly said did not have their blessing. Thankfully, after the conservatorship was terminated, she wrote her memoir, The Woman in Me, and sold the film rights to Universal, with John M. Chu becoming attached to direct. She's apparently quite involved, working closely with the filmmakers, including producer Mark Platt, and I can see it being done respectably. Honestly, if any popular singer is deserving of a sympathetic biopic, it's Britney Spears. But back to Michael Oher, he's now the one in control over whether his life should be depicted on screen, and the ball's entirely in his court about whether one should be made. It really highlights the issues that can arise when making a movie based on a true story. I've yet to see one that does not alter things here and there, although some take more dramatic license than others. I've noticed a bigger effort to portray biopics more accurately, although some inaccuracies can slip through for one reason or another, whether for artistic reasons or one the party is not wanting their likeness depicted. Thank you for your question, Benjamin.